I know.
Indeed.
Hi, this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. We're back again.
We are. Happy New Year again. Ready
Yeah.
for 2023. Having happier relationships and better dating experiences. And I think that this subject today has a real good foundational building
Yeah.
property to it for in your lives in general, but certainly in your personal relationships of how to actually honor and stay within your feminine and masculine energy, which
Hmm.
you and I talk frequently about. Everybody has both,
Yeah.
different degrees, different amounts every day, depending on what life is throwing at you, which of those traits you're going to need to do more. What I like thinking and believing and working on and teaching is how to be more conscious about it.
Hmm.
How to be more conscious when you need to be more masculine, whether you're a man or a woman, when you need to bring forward more of your femininity when you're a man and a woman. And I think we've lost a lot of that. I think things got a little messed up when we were telling men to be more feminine, but in this not very helpful way. And
Oh,
women
yeah.
have had to be more masculine in the world. And it's not been in a very helpful or healthy way for them as well. Bodily, mentally, emotionally, and physically, it hasn't been helpful. So I'm really hoping we're going to I know we're going to unpack a lot of this and get to the bottom of it and be really helpful, I think.
Well, I can definitely talk about this since I've been, immersed in this journey specifically in part of my life since 2007, and the transformation of my life and my work and everything I'm about was such a profound shift for me. And also, as you said, it is constant practice because
Mhm.
though I visit, even though I physically and energetically know the difference and embody the best I can, it's constant practice. You know,
Mhm.
um, just a quick story, just since we're starting things off. I was on a date week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, that a friend of mine put me up to, and originally she and I don't think I shared this here. I think so. So she got me and her together. So the three of us went out for lunch together first, and then I went out with her afterwards, like a couple of days later. On that um, second time when we got together, one of us, she asked us a question about the work I do and about the masculine and feminine piece. And I talked about what I do and what I'm passionate about and how I really, have respect for women. And she said, "Well, I need to tell you something." I went, "Uh-oh, what's this?" And she said, "Well, when we went out previously, when the three of us got together, she made the reservations French bistro place we went to for lunch. It was when it was been already pouring down with rain. I remember we got in the right umbrellas and everything running in there, and we were talking and having lunch. And at the end, the bill came. For I didn't. This is the thing. I didn't grab it and take care of it for all of us. And partly because I had reasoned in my head. This is the thing where I got off track. Was we're not on a date, so it doesn't count. Wrong. Because the thing is, the way she explains to me, and it was totally honest. I get it from her, so she made sense, and I totally, absolutely appreciate what she said because it's so needed. I so needed to hear it. It clicked something big in me. Was first of all, I didn't even offer, you know. And when she gave me the bill to look over, because the bill came to her because she made the reservation, so it was under her name. It was something where she gave me clues, and she didn't blatantly tell me, and I totally missed them. It's like, oh god, I screwed up completely, and I'm being totally transparent that I didn't do this well. The three of us had lunch, but the thing is, my friend who brought us together, she just had like a soup, and which wasn't cheap. It was a nice soup, but it wasn't the same price as what my prospective date and I had both had.
I see.
And frankly, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big bill, so I couldn't. It wasn't like a financial stretch, but I didn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So when we had the lunch the next couple of days later, and I was taking care of that, that was like no big deal. He said, "Yeah, but see, that's the thing. You talk about respect for women, and frankly, that was I would say it's a different point, but the truth is, I didn't think to act as a masculine man in that arrangement. Now, if it had been 10 women, it'd be a different story entirely. But in that situation, that circumstance where the investment was different financially, the fact that I didn't at least offer, I would have totally back if she said no, we're doing it separately. It's like I'd be fine with that. Maybe a little side of relief, didn't spend extra money, whatever. But the fact I could have done, didn't do, was such a like, oh damn, I know better than this. So even though I've been studying stuff for 15 years and I'm really good at this stuff and I teach this stuff, I still make mistakes. And this is very recent. So, it's like, oh, okay, lesson learned. So now it's funny because I went out with some friends a couple of days later, and I was so ready to pay before we even started. Because it was like I've been hit so hard with it. So I really was, I mean, I don't think she's going to watch the video, but I want to thank her because she totally gave me such a great lesson from that point. It was such a clean teaching, and I'm cracking up because I'm like, it could have been a much more painful lesson. It wasn't ideal, to be transparent, because we didn't have any further. We're not going on dates anymore. We might be friends, but the romantic piece isn't there at this point in time, and I'm okay with that because the value of the lesson was so good. So yes, to underscore what you said, we definitely move between masculine and feminine. That's part of the journey and part of the way we express in life. But also, it's okay when we forget, as long as we remember.
Mm-hmm. Wow. What an amazing story, Barry. Wow. And as always, I so admired your transparency. We both try really hard to be really open and honest about, yeah, we're really good at our job. And yeah, it's different when it's us. I tell my friends that all the time. I go, talk me off this cliff because it's different because it's me. And what I love about your story, I love so many things about your story. And one of them is we women love being subtle because other women understand it.
Right.
Men, not so much.
Absolutely, yeah.
And she was really obviously trying to be polite, trying not to, she didn't want to embarrass you. She didn't want to feel like she was calling you out. And yet, if she will put a little bit onus on her, we're going to certainly give you your lion's share of it. To be a little more direct, you would have gone, absolutely. We hear that loud and clear, that if it had been obvious that they would prefer or expect or thought you would have absolutely stepped up. So it wasn't anything negative about you at all.
No.
And it is really interesting how we make plans in our head. We make assumptions in our head. You had lots of evidence for how you were perceiving the situation about who's paying for what. Lots of evidence. It wasn't as if you made it up or you weren't paying attention. It all seemed logical. This is a friend of yours. This is somebody you don't really know about dating yet. It seems perfectly okay for everybody to pay for their lunch. And so what a fun, multi-layered experience to have. And I appreciate how gentle she was about telling you later, because she could have been horrible, which would really assure you're not going to ever see her again, because we can be terrible about, well, how come you couldn't read my mind and how come you didn't just know this?
No,
it certainly brought it more to the front of your brain, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the fact, and again, she was clear with me. It wasn't arrogant or angry and that sort of stuff. It was totally like, this is what this is what happened, and this is what I observed, and you were saying you were this, and it doesn't feel like that. I went, thank you for the feedback. It's like, I missed that point. I totally blew it. But I did also afterwards, after that gift had been given to me to clarify and understand, I really made it. I then got it home. I called my friend who'd put us together to apologize to her, because she may have been, and she said she wasn't even aware of it. But that wasn't the point ultimately. It's because the woman who I was meeting, I didn't demonstrate to her what I stood for. And that was kind of like, I felt so, it wasn't chagrin, but it just felt like could have done better, But then calling my friend, she laughed about it. She said, totally fine. And I said, that's what happens, what the conversation was about, and where I missed the boat, so to speak. And she said, I appreciate you telling me, and didn't bother me at all. It was like, but also, and to be honest, my friend is a little more masculine most of the time. Because she's a producer, she did a lot of things that was getting things done. So she wasn't necessarily in her softness in that environment.
No.
Plus she was orchestrating, so she was in the masculine, like directing stuff.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. So it wasn't more about that behavior in a minute, but that was the thing, is I think in a way that she didn't notice it because again, as you said, like feminine's more subtle, masculine's not. When she was in a masculine, she wasn't aware of it either. Perhaps
Nope.
I don't know, but certainly I got the feedback, and I'm really owning it. And basically, it's my front of mind every time I go with anybody for now, which is great because so now it's like, oh yeah, remember how to do this. I know better. Let's do better.
Yes, yes, and that's the best way to approach dating. That you, well, I didn't know. I really didn't know at the time. It's not like you don't know the big picture. You just didn't know at the time. And the other thing, it doesn't sound like it was for you necessarily, but it happens for men a lot, is they've had women get upset when they've offered to pay. Sadly, I mean, we've already talked about how they get upset. Women can get upset when you try to open the door, pull out our chair, help her with our coat. It floors me, but I do understand it happens. There's even like they want to just slap down their Black American Express and show you, how powerful they are. So it's, I hear that didn't happen for you, but I want to say it out loud that this can sometimes be a pause for men, where it used to just be whatever. I mean, they really would just throw down their card for the whole table.
Right.
They're like, how many women? Gosh, there's 2. And how would it be? So just to put it out there that it's not all men that are causing this short circuit that is happening, that used to feel like such a natural flow, such an effortless thing to happen. And now it's more effortful, which is one of the many reasons that dating feels harder nowadays. Is it feels like nothing can just happen. We always have to think about it. We have to talk, which is, I like that people talk about it, but it makes it feel more awkward. It makes it feel less fun, if you're having to talk about it. So I love that you're having this example, because it happens all the time. And women are like, but if he pays, does that mean he's expecting more after? There's all that too when it comes down to the paying part. What's he going to expect me to owe him after?
Yeah, the exchange thing. Yeah.
Yes, but I have heard from both sides that the women are like, I at least like him to offer. I will offer to pay my part. And that the men even love it that the women offer. And then they get to even more say, no, thank you. I'm going to pay for the whole thing. So to err on the just offer thing is probably, out of this particular conversation, you might advise most men to go, at least put your card out and see what happens and hope you don't get yelled at.
Well, and this thing is also, I mean, just to speak on the other side of the coin, to be in a place where I am quite happy to offer and do that, and when she says no,
yes,
I'm fine with that, especially when it's somebody, when we're on a first date, and it's like, it's more about, we don't think it's going to go anywhere, so we all pay our own way. It's like, whatever, it's okay. I don't go looking for that. But also, if a woman gets upset with me putting down my money, she's not someone I'll be with anyway. So it's like, thank you for telling me how you act. I'm happy to walk away from that, because the thing is, back to the masculine and feminine piece for a second, because we're talking about, is many women have been trained, and I'll get to the story later on about the history of that, to be in their masculine. So they're taking charge and running the show. And part of it can be from self-protection. Part of it can also just because they made their way in the world that way. So they become very in charge, getting things done. And so when a man hints at taking control, or hints at doing something that takes away, well, maybe her power, because the way it can be received, she can feel stepped on, even though that's not the intention. So for a lot of women, not many, I don't think it was as many now as there were, but certainly back in 10, 20 years ago, a lot of women were so affronted by not being respected for having all the power they have and all the money they have and all the ownership they have. So that when a man offers, there's some level of being, that she feels like she's being put down by him. So of course she's going to feel upset. But the thing is, and this is one of the biggest things we talk about, is having awareness is key. So not asking to find out, or not checking if that's true or not, but to make assumptions is a dangerous place to play.
So bad.
So having the,
the saying about assumption, it makes an ass out of you and me, right?
I've heard that said, yes. So yeah, and that's the thing for me. This whole conversation is really the dance of the masculine and feminine. I talk about and it's the polarity of masculine and feminine. It's such interesting to watch, and it is a flow, because the things you were saying earlier is that we do spend time in both places depending on what we're doing. So it's important to understand that it's not you have to be in one all the time only, but it's about where do you choose to be at certain circumstances, and what is that about? Because the biggest thing we're talking about here in a lot of ways is not to be on autopilot, but to be conscious of your choices and where you are, so you know you're aligned to where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Such a good point. And what I have learned for me is I need to be really consciously thinking about, wow, I've really been a lot of my masculine today. Like when I had my event planning company, it was very masculine. My job was, I was in charge of a whole bunch of working people that were working for me, plus they were taking care of a lot of guests. And so I had to be in charge all the time, which is really interesting because my friends are always surprised that I never met anybody romantically. And I really realized it was because I was very in charge and I needed to be.
Yeah.
And that I needed to think, I always thought about a light switch, that I was switching to the other polarity when I would go out dancing with my friends. I wasn't the big businesswoman anymore. I wasn't in charge of everything. I wanted a man to hold me while we danced, that I had to think about it. I had to consciously think about it. It wasn't something that would just happen. And what I've done sometimes is I've put on specific, they're not going to see necessarily, but specific lingerie or a specific piece of jewelry. That's my feminine part. That's my feminine power that made me already start with a mindset, do my makeup a little differently, wear a different fragrance, so that I thought about moving myself into the more feminine place, the more receptive place. And the other thing I'm going to say that you brought up that's so important, because I can see you have lots to add, is the receptive part, that we think the man is taking away our power by opening the door and holding. We are allowing them. We are saying it's okay. We are giving them permission. It couldn't be more them providing for us, them serving us. You guys are so wonderful about that. And you don't do it unless we let you. We can absolutely say, talk to the hand and stop. But if you're going to do it and we're going to let you do it, it's because we've let you do it.
Yes.
There's nothing diminishing for either person if it's done in that clean way. I just had to say that.
Well, the other thing is from the open the door type thing is really, I mean, for me, maybe not for all men, but certainly for myself, it really is that because I respect her that I want to do that. Now, the thing is, and I realize a double-edged sword in this one too, because I'm doing it out of respect for her as a woman, but it may be out of respect for her feminine, not for her masculine. So maybe there's a part that she might feel upset. It's like, well, I can be my masculine, so why are you not respecting that? So I understand there's a double-edged sword on that one. So I want to explain this polarity piece for a second, just in the framework, so we can sort of go from there, so to speak. Part of the transformation, I mean, for me, just to speak for my personally, growing up, I didn't have a reference point for being masculine. I had two areas to play in, which is nice guy and macho. The only two I knew about, because my dad was the macho lead guy, very sort of stoic, and kept himself to himself, didn't express very emotionally, and just got things done. And I didn't feel I could be like that. And when I was around all the women I was around, girls growing up and everything else, even around my mum, I was the nice guy. So I was actually softer, and not realizing it, the nice guy was kind of ultimately more feminine. I didn't know that at the time, because again, I didn't have references of masculine and feminine polarity as these two poles of the polarity. So, and I went through life, and I've been on this, I shared this before on the talks. I've been on the personal development field since the mid 80s. So I've done many, many seminars, many trainings, many books, many studies, many retreats, et cetera, and not realizing that all the way through that, I still had the nice guy persona within me, because it was what I was doing. And in fact, the more work I was doing, the more my heart was opening, the more service I was doing, the more soft I was being. And so definitely not macho, because I couldn't be macho. But there was, again, I only had the two areas to play, macho or nice guy, which basically the macho is more like the bad boy. So nice guy, bad boy type polarity, not healthy. So again, 15 years ago, I started this discovery and exploration and deep dive into the masculine and feminine polarity. But learning there was a third choice, which is the big shift for me, that beyond macho and beyond nice guy was masculine, which was so much more, honestly, more authentic, but also much more usable for a way of being in the world. So I've been
And
so passionate.
always, not just with women.
Exactly.
Yes.
To be in the world. I mean, for the one thing I remember vividly remembering from one of my teachers, actually from in David Daly's book, The Way of the Superior Man, chapter 7, because I remember vividly the chapter is that a man's purpose must come before his relationship. And a masculine man is not defined by it, but is to be defined because he has a purpose
Mm-hmm.
in the world, something other than himself. It might be family, but usually it's bigger than that. It might be a social change, it might be a service of some sort, or it might be his business. But it's something that fills him up so that his relationship doesn't have to. That's a big wake up call for some men, by the way. And so that was a powerful piece for me to learn, because up to that point, I'd had 6, 7 careers, but none of them were juicing me as my purpose. They were just things I did. Now I live what I do by this work because that's what fills me. So I know it's my purpose. So back in the 60s, when the sexual revolution happened, when women basically finally had some more rights, authority, and freedoms that they didn't have up to that point, women started becoming kind of masculine themselves because they started taking the rights and running the show and being in charge and getting things done. And so dating for men and women, I remember vividly back in the 80s how challenging it was, because it was kind of like strong men, strong women doing this.
Yes.
So that wasn't exactly healthy. And for a lot of women who are discovering what femininity is, they think it's weak, which, and I'm missing some of the story just to keep it in the frame of the show. But women have been, in some ways, educated or learned through hard knocks that to be soft or to be feminine was a weakness and they couldn't show it. So for women, to be masculine was almost their place of being safe and honoring. And after the Me Too conversation, it wasn't helping much either, because the Me Too conversation was such that women didn't trust men in a lot of cases. And of course, we didn't trust ourselves anymore because of that as well, just to be transparent. So this conversation hopefully will help people get an understanding of the framework we're playing in, but also choices they can make, men and women, because this is important stuff that makes not only dating important, but as you were saying, life itself, how you relate to other people, how you live your life, how you stay true to yourself. Knowing where you stand on masculine and feminine polarity at different times, different places, is so important for that to be more effective.
Amen. Amen. Yes, yes. Because it felt like everybody went to a hard extreme, an extreme that wasn't working for them, and it certainly wasn't working for coupling.
Right.
And I love that you brought up the nice guy thing, because you know that there's the saying about nice guys finish last. And men, I think, have lost sight or didn't know or forgot. There's a difference, and you've said it so eloquently, between nice and masculine.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to macho. You don't.
Right.
You can stay in a very solid middle ground that's very appealing to a woman that's not, in her extreme, too masculine or not having any backbone at all.
Right.
Because we're bitchy at either end, guaranteed. Doesn't
I'm not
matter.
saying it, you said it, it's okay.
I'm allowed to say it because I've lived that in my life a few times. Yeah. And what's sad is these ends are the least powerful places for either a man or woman to be. You lose your power. You've given it up, or you're fighting. You're pushing it away, or you're trying to force it. When you find the middle ground of being a masculine balanced man and a feminine and masculine and feminine balanced woman, somewhere in the middle, it's energizing. It's going to bring the right people to you. It's going to give you more excitement for going through your day. It's like having your engine tuned, and having the high octane gas in it is how it feels to me. I love how your face is looking, because that feeling when we're just on our game. And so the way to do that is to say, well, how do I feel when this circumstance comes up? Does that feel masculine or feminine? Boy, did I feel bitchy? Did I feel controlling? to like make a scale and look at where your hashtags are on this, and not to give yourself a hard time, because the thing is, we can't change anything unless we're aware of it, unless we go, oh, look what I'm doing. Look how I'm acting. I remember when you were talking, I was talking about dancing. I remember I had been having this very intense conversation with a girlfriend. We were at a bar, a dancing place, and I just gotten all fired up about talking about something and was so in my masculine place. And this guy came up and he asked me to dance, and it was a slow dance. And he looked like he would be fun to dance with. And I go out on the dance floor and I go, I'm ready. And he's like, he was
right.
He was so
Overwhelmed him.
And it was such a long time ago, but I still remember his face. And I was like, bring it down. Come on. Let's bring it down. It was like I was in charge, and I'm gonna take the lead, which I loved being led, especially by a good leader. But it was so startling, and I didn't even realize what I did until I saw his face. Or I just comes and asks the girl to dance, and then she's like, wow. So to be more conscious of what causes us to feel out of our best place. So because both people need both things. I was so wanted to make sure we say that a bunch of times in this. Nobody needs to be all of one thing. But certainly I am, certainly now in this job, I am way more feminine. My male clients really thrive on it because they get a chance to bounce things off of me. And I still give them direction and I give them guidance. And I feel like I'm still coming from so much more of, I engage my brain so much more of the emotional part of me. I am enjoying living in my feminine more than I enjoyed living in my masculine before. So, and the other thing is to watch other people. Aren't there just people that seem to do it really effortlessly and elegantly, and go, well, what are you thinking when you do that? I mean, if you know them well enough to ask them. And one of the things people I admire that looks like that, I have no idea because I don't know her, is Nicole Kidman. She just has an aura about her where there's nobody going to push her around. She seems like she has a lot of power, but she is, to me, so feminine. And so her actions, her words, the way she treats people, I'm like, ooh, I'm going to just keep watching her and looking at some of the things she does. But people, intimately, you can ask, how did you get to that place? How do you feel so comfortable in your body? How do you feel so comfortable talking to the opposite sex? I think that is a big telling thing. In the masculine feminine polarity.
In fact, that's probably, I mean, obviously in the show, let's talk about dating. That's kind of a key piece of this conversation too. And that is the thing. The challenge, and using, let me switch to use the dancing, remember back to Argentine tango, that it's one of my favorite dances one of my favorite methods to show how masculine and feminine interacts well. If you watch competitive Argentine tango dancers, if you look at the very basic what they're doing, the masculine creates the structure, the frame, which is what masculine is really good at. The feminine creates the flair, the sexiness, the flow, the grace, all that excitement. He may do some exciting moves, but it's always about he creates a structure that she can play within comfortably. It's not entrapment, it's not control, it's a complementary system. And in masculine feminine polarity, that's the way it works best when men are, and I'm using this as a natural residence, when men reside in the masculine, women reside in the feminine. Now, one qualifier, by the way, as well. Male and female genders are generally, but not 100%, aligned to masculine and feminine polarity. There are men, and also that's true also of gay couples too, where one partner will be more masculine, one partner will be more feminine. Doesn't matter what sexual polarity is. So understanding that men and women, as we talk generally in heterosexual relationships, are most of the time, because they're going to qualify that in a second, men masculine, women feminine. That also straight relationships that are very authentic and very effective, very powerful, where the man's in his feminine and woman's in her masculine naturally. So don't exclude that part of the population too. But what's happening is, in my dating history before my understanding happened in 2007, my past relationships, 3 of them in a row, in fact, were very clearly where the women were more in their masculine than I was. Now, it wasn't healthy, authentic masculine, authentic, healthy feminine. Just that they ran the show. The last one of the three of them asked me out. She ran the relationship, and I was fine with it. Backwards, ultimately, but it's what worked for us in the time because both of us are out of alignment. So even when you're out of alignment, relationships can still happen. Don't necessarily work very well, but they still happen. But the thing is, what I didn't know until afterwards, why I did this work since then, was she was waiting for me to take charge. But she didn't offer me the reins directly. She did it, as you say, subtly. And I wasn't aware enough at that time to catch the hints. I was saying I'm doing better now, except I didn't do at that date. So I'm like, I'm generally good at this stuff, but once in a while I make a mistake, and I, mea culpa. But the thing, the other piece I want to add to this is, let's cut to this chase about sex for a second. Masculine and feminine polarity is vital, I believe, for sexual polarity or sexual chemistry. You say, I've talked this in other talks. I think I put it in my book as well about the difference in how chemistry is renewable, because what creates the connection or the excitement between a couple in bedroom is masculine and feminine differences, because that difference is what creates the attraction, like north and south poles of a magnet. The thing is, because we do go through life living and inhabiting both sides of the conversation, masculine and feminine, during life, when we get home with that partner and want to go to bed with them, especially want to have sex with them, it almost takes, and this is the thing we don't do, but it takes a conscious effort to regroup back to our natural polarity. So what one of my teachers talked about, I think I talked about it on the show before as well, one of my teachers talked about this, it wasn't my origination, is when a couple wants to come together in the bedroom, wants to have great sexual chemistry and making love, what the man does, if he's the masculine partner, is gathers up all his feminine energy he's been using all during the day, that he's done for work, for whatever he's been doing, maybe taking care of the kids, whatever it is that put him in his feminine. He bundles it up and gives it to her as a gift for her safekeeping. And it's all obviously symbolic. She does the same thing with the masculine energy, because she was driving the car and getting things done, make things happen. She gathers all the masculine energy up, gives it to him for safekeeping. Wow. That changes the room entirely.
I love that visual.
Yeah, because it works, and it's not something that has to be very hard work. But by doing that, first of all, it takes the day and puts it to the side, because when you start looking back at your day and you say, I'm putting away, giving away, you can be present. But secondly, you might see your partner a whole new way, because maybe you haven't seen it for 3 days in a feminine, or he in his masculine, because we're so busy doing stuff. And so the shifting of that dance to be real authentic with each other can really create a wonderful connection that, amen, of being sex, but just the wonderful sense of enjoying that connection through the masculine and feminine polarity, the attraction that really builds a relationship. So if you're in a relationship for a long time, I recommend you do renew that. If you put magnets in a drawer together for a long time, they tend to lose the magnetism. And same with couples, they tend to become best friends and not have that chemistry anymore. So just do this practice once in a while can help refuel and restore that polarity.
I love that.
You're welcome.
That it's such a good exercise, because that is something you hear a lot, that we feel like roommates now. We like each other, but there's not all that sexual chemistry.
Right.
Yes. That is such a good idea, because when I was thinking about the Argentine tango, he is always the leader. And there's no way he can lead without her, I don't know the word to use, the resistance, the pushing back. You have to, you push your hands together. It's not like he's pushing you all around. There has to be some resistance. So you're doing the dance together. And the only way that she can stick her leg up in the air is because he's holding her. He's got the frame, as you put it. So when you're able to express yourself in this wonderful, glorious way, how much juice does that make? I love the Argentine tango for lots of those reasons, because it's I felt so powerful, even though he was in charge. There was no way I didn't feel powerful, flinging my leg around him.
Right.
Air. I mean, oh my gosh, so much fun.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, by the way, that the thing is that like opening the door, I feel that being the frame holder for my partner is not because I'm leading or I'm in charge. No, it's because I honor and respect her. Same thing.
Yeah. So there you are when you say giving a gift, which is such a beautiful visualization. You're making choices. You're consciously thinking, Where am I today? Because that's what happened a lot with COVID, where they were now working at home together, and their balance was they were off doing their masculine, feminine things away from each other, and now they were doing it together, and nobody knew what to do with this unusual feeling energy.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I found a number of men lately that are in relationships, married or whatever, and they're retiring, and their significant others going, go find something else to do during the day. Love you madly, but I'm used to you being gone, and you need a purpose, because they start collapsing and getting more feminine because they don't have a purpose, or their purpose now becomes to run the house, and the person that's been running the house doesn't want that, and it's causing friction and conflicts. So for the man, as you said, to go find a purpose again is going to get him juiced up and to put him back in his masculine. Because I find that when you don't have a purpose, you Y chromosome people, you either figure out, you end up being more feminine, which isn't really your natural way, or you can get too macho, because you're trying to force it. So boy, purpose.
Yes.
And I think women, our purpose is a little different often, but we just as much need a purpose to get us juiced up and feel needed and feel important and feel like everybody feels like they're contributing to the world. So then you come back full of that you're not asking your partner to fill that up. I think that's also a personal responsibility, that what helps you feel more excited about being out in the world is going to increase what's happening inside of your body. And physiologically, because men's bodies, we all have estrogen and testosterone. We just do. Generally, men's bodies run better if you have more. So the more masculine things you do, the more testosterone your body's going to produce.
Right.
And the less purpose-driven things you do, the more nurturing, the more caring, the more loving, the more estrogen your body's going to produce. So staying conscious of, am I doing enough masculine producing stuff in my life? So what's so cool about what you do is you coach women about their feminine energy and how to live a much more fulfilling life. And you do it from this really masculine place, which is such an interesting balance to watch. It's one of the many things I admire about you. You're welcome.
I appreciate that.
And for women to are directing and are producing and are, making things happen in our life, helps us keep the testosterone, because that keeps us feeling juicy. That makes us feel pretty sexually excited. And yet we need to make sure we're doing lots more things that do help us produce our estrogen, so that we feel physically, emotionally more healthy. So it's for all these good reasons to get clear about what helps you feel more in your masculine and feminine, because it's going to help your sleep, your sex life, your attitude, your picking friends. I mean, it's really got long-reaching medicinal purposes, don't you think?
Absolutely. In fact, speak to one thing about men retiring, because that's something that you said in passing. I don't have correlation for this, but I'm sure it's true. Is because they've said about when men retire, oftentimes they die within about 5 years. I think 99% of those people is because men haven't got a new thing to do in their life that is a purpose that fulfills them. Now, I think men who maybe have a passionate hobby they love doing that was not their job because their job wasn't their purpose, but their hobby was, they'll keep them going for years. So for men whose 24/7 life was their job and they didn't have anything outside of that, before you retire, or even if you have retired, find something that lights you up as a man, masculine man, something that juices you, that feels like a purpose you can do in the world that makes a difference. It probably won't be stamp collecting. This can be something to make it. Maybe you're going to do something with the environment or something with animals, or maybe you're just going to go and mentor boys. I mean, whatever it is for you that fills you up, that will keep you alive. It'll keep you happy, keep you fulfilled, and keep you vital in a way that maybe a lot of men have given up on.
Yeah.
So definitely on that piece of conversation. And one more thing as well is this whole dance of relationship and polarity. It isn't just the relationship. Like you said, it's like it does extend to your friendships and life itself and what you're up to in the world. And also, like, take care of yourself. the more, because the thing it comes back to is when you are authentically aligned to your masculine or feminine as your authentic beingness, then you start to value who you are and you start taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This is good for your health.
Yes. You have a purpose for getting up in the morning. You have a purpose for eating better. You have a purpose for getting out and exercising. Anybody that's listened knows that I ride every week with my friend Donna.
Yes.
And one day we were riding, there was a new man with his horse tied up in this area we ride by. And we were like, "Oh, how are you?" And he goes, "My wife kicked me out of the house. I retired and I was home for 2 months. And she said, go get a hobby. So I bought a horse." Because
Yep.
horses need attention every day. And he
Yep.
says, "Life is so much better at my house now." And I loved the story. It was so perfect. So, yes, get a purpose. Men, especially, they need a purpose. We get friends, volunteer. I love the idea of mentoring, because you have knowledge. It's funny that I had a man tell me once, he goes, "When I was young, I could do more than I knew, and now I know more than I can do." And I said, "Yeah, I really."
I
So
love that.
teach.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot why, they tease that men have a midlife crisis and go out and buy, a sports car.
Yeah.
But it helps them have a hobby. It helps them have an interest. They can join a Corvette club, or they can join a place that restores old cars. I mean, even just that can give you a purpose
Hmm.
that's interesting and you feel productive about it, and you can come home and talk about it. This is what
Right.
I did all day. That's what's so fun. I think a lot of times men don't want to always talk about their jobs because they're tired and they've dealt with it all day. But I have found most men are very happy to talk about their hobbies, fishing or hiking or camping or car restoration. They're really happy to talk about it. And I think that is very helpful for a marriage, a relationship, that you keep bringing new information back every day. My friend that I ride with, her husband sold his construction company to his son, but he's now coaching wrestling at the local high school. Every day there's a new wrestling story. So that's really fun
Yeah.
because, the construction, that was sort of interesting, but she says he gets fired up every day about going.
You're changing lives. Absolutely. That's wonderful
Yes,
stuff.
because it's these young girls and they've gone off to win championships. So, he gets to take, some pride about it. And good for him. I'm glad that he
Yeah.
found this to do.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Isn't that wonderful? It's such a good story because he's 80 and still coaching wrestling. I mean, how impressive is that?
Well, that's the thing, is that he didn't die at 66 or whatever that was. He basically found things that fill his heart. And so, a little word to the wise for all the men out there: definitely keep if you want to stay around and do stuff that make a difference in your life and around people you love, find something that lights you up that is outside of all those things.
Yeah.
As I said, the quote from David Dater's book is, a man's purpose must come before his relationship.
Yes.
And the reason for that is not to say one's more important than the other, but the thing is that, and I proved this for myself, doesn't work, is in my relationships, when I didn't understand this, I would think that she was my calling, my purpose, which sounds very romantic, but it's kind of that you complete me stuff. It's so not true.
True, though.
Yeah, exactly. So recognizing that, finding something that fills my soul, my purpose, so that when I'm in a relationship, I can relax and be joyful with my partner and make that my priority when I'm doing it. It takes the pressure off the relationship, makes it easier to be there, and also makes the relationship more fulfilling because it's not having to fill up two roles, so to speak.
Oh, yes. It's like filling up your own gas tank. So now you have the energy to go dance with your partner, make love with your partner, cook in the
Mhm.
kitchen together. And it'll give you even more permission if you had a hard day or you've had something, a significant person in your life passes away or is ill, that you can then go be nurtured and comforted by your significant other because you're already so secure in your masculinity, it's okay to fall apart. I mean,
Yeah.
it was the greatest honor the times that my late husband did that for me, with me, to me, that he told me very tender, important things that had happened in his life. And what an honor that is, that he felt safe and secure. And I would be so even admire him more, that what he had gone through and how he overcome it, came it. And now that he's trusting me to tell me, because there was nobody else that knew some of the stuff he told me. And
Yeah.
wow, the biggest compliment ever. And that's because he had figured out how to be in his masculinity so successfully. And it was interesting because when I first met him, I felt it, but I didn't know I believed it, because it was so odd and unusual. But the more I got to know him, the more I was like, it is just a simmering, just a under the surface, but it is so there. And, it would come out, but just most of the time it was just there. I was fascinated because I hadn't met too many men like that,
Yeah.
that it was so subtle. Because I'm really happy with blatant out there masculinity, perfectly fine with me. But for the ladies, you might not notice it right away. So just watch to see where are they on the scale. And I think it's because I'd gotten myself to a pretty middle place. I'd really worked hard to get off of that hugely masculine. First, I was so collapsing in my first marriage. And then when I had my company for 25 years, I was on it being masculine. And I figured out how more to get in the middle. And I think that was what really was a big factor in meeting somebody who had figured out how to be in the middle.
Yeah.
It was fast because he'd been raised by a grandmother. I mean, he had everything that could have made him not that way. But the way that she raised him, because his parents both worked, they were home. And his dad was a brute. His dad was the macho person. And he clearly figured out when he was like 10 or 11, he was not going to do it that way, but he had to figure out what was the way to do it.
Right.
Yeah. It was an interesting to be observer of how he had done it. So I get to hear your journey too. And I love when men can be, this is what I learned. This is what was hard. This is what worked. This is what didn't work. This is when I sat down and fell on my face. So, yeah, I love that you get to share this, because I want women to see it comes in all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
And men
Absolutely.
too, to see that we come in all shapes and sizes as far as our masculine, feminine part.
And that's the thing, and I said it earlier and I'll say it again, is that polarity is what creates the connection and the chemistry between partners. And it can be a blend or an overlap in different ways. The thing to speak to again is that you talk about being in the middle. I would say that to me, like the masculine is in the middle between the nice guy and the macho. And then the woman, just want to repeat this piece, because so the woman being the feminine is between being maybe the waif and the bossy one. I'll be nice. I'm not using other words. So we're talking about being above that, but at the same time, masculine and feminine polarity are the ends of the polarity spectrum between the two. So I don't know, to confuse people with the different physical things we're drawing in the space, but understanding that for women being in their feminine, I'll say this as from me personally, when I see a woman who owns her femininity, it's one of the sexiest things I know. So for ladies watching this, get it. And I think for women, a man who's in his purpose is one of the most honorable and sexy things too for her. Because she can see a man who owns who he is, not from a macho, look at me, look at my champion, beat my chest, or being the passive nice guy, which I know I was many times. I know what that was like. But a man who just simply is who he is and authentic. It's a rare gift to be presented that way and to be seen that way for both men and for women.
It is a gift. It's a gift to yourself, and it's a gift to your partner. This has been one of those times when I thought, a whiteboard would have been really, because we did really draw a lot of things in the air, and I'm glad you called it out, because I hope it's clear. It has felt like we needed to talk about a graph, because if you don't know where you are, you don't know how to get to another place.
Right.
So if you think, okay, let's draw a graph, let's look at a scale, whatever works for you, colors, different shades, figure out where you are first.
Yes.
Maybe you don't like it. Maybe it's not your favorite thing. Barry and I both been there. We went, oh yeah, not fun.
Yeah.
And then once you get over it's yucky, you go, well, where would I like to be? And what do I need to learn to get there? What do I need to do differently to get there? What do I need to change in my thinking, in the way that I approach people? in the way I'm handling my life in the world, my living environment? What things are going to help you move to a more healthy masculine or healthy feminine place in your life? Because you're probably really good at one or the other, and you just need to get better at the other side, right? Because we both need the balance in our life, because that's what makes the world go round, if we all have a balance of both.
And the thing is also circumstances and things that we do will tend to draw those parts out of us as well. So oftentimes to be more effective in certain areas, to refine that thing. Oh, there she is.
Hello, Miss Gigi.
But the thing is, if you're getting things done, being in your masculine is more effective.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing something where you're more creative, more in the flow and the more movement, that's a feminine energy that, again, independent of gender, that can be sort of being the energies. Like I know for myself that oftentimes I have to work to get out of the rigidity or the structure that I create in the masculine to do things that are more free flowing and creative, which is good news. It means that I've really refined and built that masculine place really solidly in me, because that was not there for a long time.
I know.
So
You bake bread, for gosh sakes.
I get things done, yeah. But I still make mistakes. I still make mistakes on dates. So, I've got it balanced.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. You've
Yeah.
put things, activities, thoughts, behaviors in your life that bring out this more masculine side or bring out the more feminine side. So
Yeah.
then you can more effortlessly call on it, because that's the thing, like, oh, now when I think I would like to be a little more feminine, do I even know how to do that? Don't know what it feels like. Have I paid attention when it felt like that before? So that I could now add that more back into my life, which is why I have my little talismans. Is that what you call when you wear something that helps you feel a little bit differently?
I think it sounds like a heuristic, maybe the word.
Oh, I like that word.
Yeah, I
That
think heuristic is good. Yeah. Oh, okay. About producer.
I know. I think she was enamored by what we were talking about.
Yeah, no ads or anything, straight in.
I know. It was pretty cool. She let us go crazy. Ah, thank you, Cece. We love you back. Okay, so if you are really interested in learning more about balancing your masculine and feminine, because we think it's going to make your life even better, because it certainly
Absolutely.
has helped both of ours. And you see that sometimes you don't remember, and that's okay too, because we'll teach you what to do when you don't remember. So if you'd like to talk to me, you can reach me through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com, and click on what's holding you back from love. And you can have a complimentary conversation with me to get to the bottom of why isn't this working, this masculine feminine polarity for you. You can also send me a personal email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. You can also watch my personal videos and my podcasts with lovely Barry on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and
Pinterest.
Sometimes I remember them all and sometimes I don't. And so, yes, Barry, please tell them how to reach you.
Certainly. So I have my own website. You definitely reach out to me. My website is barryselby.com. In fact, all my social media except for one is my name, which I'll get to in a second. On my website, you can, at the top of the screen, if you want to invest in a consultation with me directly, click on the Get Started button and we can set something up there. At the bottom of the screen, I have a link to my email list. If you want to just join my email list and be part of my following, my audience, you can do that as well. My book's on my website. I have a bunch of other videos on my website. Also, I have my online course on the website, and my coaching is on my website. So barryselby.com. Like Christine, I also have a lot of videos, including the ones with our show, which is on my YouTube channel. So basically, apart from Instagram, which is the real Barry Selby, all my social media is my name, Barry Selby, including Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, as I mentioned, Clubhouse, Pinterest. I've right now deleted TikTok from my phone, so I'm not using it at the moment. And was there one? That was it, I think. So definitely come find us, sort it, get some help, reach out to us. We're here to help you. We know some stuff and we make our own mistakes, so we can teach you how not to make them.
Then you don't have to.
Exactly. We make mistakes so you don't have to.
So thoughtful of us.
Indeed.
And we're here every week with Let's Talk Dating at 1:00 Pacific and 4:00 Eastern and all the times in between with interesting dating and relationship subjects. Please send us comments if you have a comment about our show or you have you'd like us to talk about something specific, send us categories and subjects. And please share this with any of your friends that are having challenges with their dating and relationships. We'd be happy to have a chance to talk to them too through our podcast or in one of our forms of on the phone or Zoom or something. We're here to serve.
We are indeed.
Yes. So bye for now.
Take care of yourselves.